Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, and today I'm here to talk about Season 2, Episode 5 of Apple TV's Silo, entitled Descent. Perhaps a more accurate title might have been Decent. That's the best way to describe both this episode and this season. Like, this episode, just like all the ones that preceded it, did very little to move the plot along. Juliet's plot is in the mud, and it seems intentional almost. Like, while we did learn at the end of the episode that Solo seems to be lying about who he is, big surprise there, we otherwise just got more examples of him being weird and cagey and Juliet not really pressing him about it while she goes on like a side quest to help get out of the silo. One episode, she made a bridge. In another episode, she had to create a breathing apparatus to get a suit. In this episode, she needs to find a helmet. Like, at this rate, she's not even gonna attempt to leave the silo until long after the residents of her silo are dead. And there's supposed to be urgency there, right? Like, oh shit, I have to hurry up and get back to my silo before people come out looking for me. But how much time has passed? Like, why is this show not even conveying the urgency? Has it been hours since Juliet left her silo? Has it been days? There's evidence to support both small and large passages of time. Like, I need to know about this time component if I'm to feel any sort of tension. And I can't even tell because it feels like days have passed in the scenes from Juliet's original silo, but hours have passed in her scenes. Even worse, each episode feels like she's accomplished next to nothing. So I'm in this weird purgatory of feeling like there's supposed to be some urgency, but also that a lot of time has passed and not much has been accomplished. You know, this is a 10-episode season, so at this point, we're only halfway through, and I just don't know if I can take 5 more episodes at this pace. Like, it's episode after episode of examples with next to no forward progress. Examples of Bernard trying to unite the Solo against Mechanical. But where is this going? Like, am I supposed to be dreading Bernard's desired result of people not leaving the silo? Like, are they going to keep drawing out this rebellion to the final episode like House of the Dragon did, only to not do it at all and kick it to the next season? Like, I think that's probably why I've grown more impatient lately. Like, House of the Dragon sold us on a battle that felt like it was going to resolve a lot of shit that they just dragged out the back half of the season and ultimately never even did that battle. So, like, I'm now scarred by that, and I feel like I'm seeing that again. Like, each episode is wash, rinse, repeat with both storylines. Like, we get Bernard's next attempt to unite the silo against Mechanical, but virtually no new information. Like, we get more examples of Solo, like I said, being weird and cagey, and Juliet not pressing him enough or not being sufficiently interested in what he has to say. Like, I get it, right? Solo's hiding something. Solo and Silo, man. Solo's hiding something. Something's wrong with him. Can we get into what it might actually be instead of giving more examples that he's lying and more reasons for us to be suspicious? Like, we get the next menial step in Juliet's attempt to leave the silo, but is she going to learn anything at all about what happened in Solo's silo? Is she going to make any significant forward progress in getting out, or is she going to spend all the next episode looking for tape for her suit? And then all the next one after that, you know, looking for a crowbar to open the door. And then the next one after that, looking for some WD-40 to grease up the hinges. Like, and this strategy of delay just seems to be more prevalent. And it's just really fucking annoying. Like I said, House of the Dragon did it. Doom Prophecy did it. And this show seems to be doing it. And in a year full of shows that weren't as good as they were expected to be or should have been, to have one of my favorites on a path to my list of disappointments is pretty discouraging. Hey everybody, I just want to take a small break from this review to talk about the various other ways you can engage with me on other platforms. If you're so inclined, and I understand why you wouldn't, I am an acquired taste, but you can join the Patreon where you can get extra content like retro reviews, where I review old shows and movies to see if they still hold up today, Mike's Musings, where I talk about shows I'm watching that I don't cover on the channel, or Mike's VOD, where you can commission me to watch a show, which I will then review on the channel. And if you want to engage with me and chat with me more directly, I also implore you to join the Discord and follow the Facebook page. I set up channels in the Discord for all of us to discuss the shows I'm reviewing on the channel, and I also drop new videos in there since it's the easiest platform for me to share to from my phone. The Facebook can be really fun because I sort of live comment on shows I'm watching, often while under the influence, I'm not going to lie. And I'll also share news there, both about television and film and about myself as well. So if you like my content, you want to be more engaged, you think I'm charming, or you simply want to show support, feel free to sign up for the Patreon or join the Discord or Facebook today. Links to all platforms are in every video description. Remember to share all my shit to your respective social media platforms. And now back to this review. So this episode begins with Bernard continuing his plan to turn the silo against Mechanical while our group of 4 is trying to get back there after being set up for Judge Meadows' murder. In the first scene, Sims returns home and starts discussing how he set up the Meadows impeachment scheme, not knowing that Bernard is in the kitchen. And I thought, you know what I thought they were about to do? I thought they were about to like copy Gladiator. Like, you remember that scene where Commodus threatens his own nephew, like with the thinly veiled language, like the busy little bee speech? I thought he was going to do that with Sims' wife, because he was positioned behind her in the kitchen while she was like messing with the coffee maker. And then he was staring at Sims. I'm like, oh, he about to say something crazy. But instead, he throws out the charade altogether and says that he can't trust him. So he's promoting him. And here's the thing, right? It's not presented as a promotion, but it sounds like one. Like, Sims used to work for Meadows. Now he's got her job. Sounds like a promotion to me. But I think the idea, and we see this play out when Sims tries to go to the situation room that's through the closet, is that Sims is basically now sidelined where it matters and relegated to what is, for all intents and purposes, a desk job. Sims is replaced by a guy named Rick Amundsen, who gets checked by Bernard when he refers to the Raiders as his guys. But how is he going to refer to the team that he leads? Like, I don't know. That's a weird place for Bernard to get pissed off. Sims' wife, Camille, though, seems to be like, I don't know, like the new Sims for this season. I don't know. Like, she's gassing him up to do the impeachment scheme on Meadows, which ultimately resulted in Meadows' death. And in this episode, she immediately begins to undermine Amundsen to Sims, saying that if Sims were still in charge, the 4 rebels would already be captured. Then at the same time, she goes out in her old Raider uniform, throws her dick on the table in front of the whole mob, and then gives Shirley and Knox a place to hide until they can escape. Then on top of that, Bernard still finds out that she did it. So what does she have planned if she wasn't even worried about Bernard catching her doing it? You know, like I said up top, this season has been short on interesting developments, but I'm pretty interested in whatever Camille is up to. Speaking of our fugitives, the older black lady of the group, Carla, she says she has connects among the porters that can help them get back to Mechanical. We haven't seen much of the porters this season, but they're the people that we saw running up and down the stairs a lot in season 1 with like shit on their backs that they were carrying for delivery. Dude wants to smuggle them down through among some grain, but they want to use like this winch and pulley system that's been outlawed because it would essentially make porters useless. Like AI is going to do most of our jobs. But dude ends up selling them out though, and the group has to split up, with the youngs going in one direction and the olds going in another. There's also a bounty on Shirley and Knox, as they're the ones who supposedly, met with Meadows and committed the crime. Meanwhile, Bernard pulls Lucas from the mines to work on fixing the hard drive that I honestly thought he was lying when he said it was broken. I thought he was bullshitting, but Lucas finds a map of the silo on the hard drive that has a couple of interesting features. One, it corroborates something Solo says to Juliet about IT and Judicial having their own external power source. I don't know how that's going to come into play ultimately, but they're setting something up with that. And 2, it seems to confirm the presence of the tunnel at the bottom of the silo. And George, that was his name, right, mentioned that to Juliet in like the beginning of season 1. Like, I think the season 1, episode 1 cliffhanger was Juliet dangling over water that's supposed to have this tunnel underneath it. So that's some good info we got this week. He also says that he found a love letter from Salvador Quinn. That's the name that I said we should remember from last week, who's a former head of IT. Well, not last week anymore, but it's a love letter to his wife that starts out as a love letter but turns into code, corroborating what Meadows said as she was dying last week. I'm also pretty interested in this coded message and maybe even learning more about this Salvador Quinn guy. So Knox and Shirley leave the apartment that they were placed in by Camille and head up rather than down, back to the same porter who betrayed them. They take the winch and pulley system and they use that to drop down below the barrier that had been placed on the stairs. And just as Juliet spends this episode looking for a helmet, Knox and Shirley essentially spend it trying to go downstairs. And the experience of watching that wasn't necessarily bad, like I just made it sound, but it wasn't all that riveting either. And I'm still waiting to feel like this season has some sort of direction and forward progress, rather than having the characters like stand in place while things happen to them. And speaking of Juliet, I want to wrap up by discussing what happened with her this week as well. We learned that the Raiders blew up the groundwater pump in Solo's silo. in an attempt to flood out mechanical, but they weren't able to get it under control before the generator was knocked out. That's why there's flooding and why there's no power. Solo says that he has 10 months until the water is too high. And again, Juliet, why didn't you ask him just like even how he knows that? There's so many things, both trivial and important, that Juliet either doesn't ask Solo about at all or lightly ask, he bullshits, and she backs off. Not a huge deal. Casual observation, could have you going, it rose this much over this amount of time, so it should be here in this amount of time. But he claims to have never left the vault and has never been caught and has been caught in numerous other lies. Like, just why not continue to ask questions and pressure him? Anyway, like I said earlier, Juliet's goal this week is the exciting quest to find a helmet to match her firefighter suit. During her search, we learned that Solo's supposed real name is Cole Myers. We also learned that apparently Juliet's silo has a version of Romeo and Juliet where they don't die for whatever reason. That's another thing I think she should press him on that would make these scenes more interesting is learning about the differences between the silos. Like it gives the writers the opportunity to make up, strange little anecdotes or features and interesting differences between this world and ours. But they could also just use that to give little tidbits of useful information as well, just to keep us intrigued. Maybe Juliet learns about some important difference that can aid in her quest. But no, she continues not asking questions that will move the plot forward faster than its current rate of glacier. But Juliet later finds a memo about a missing helmet. And remember when I said in episode 1 that Juliet's stuff felt like Resident Evil? Like, that has not changed. The memo leads her to the apartment of one of the people who worked on the suits, and she finds a picture of them and a young version of Solo, but it ain't Steve Zahn or anybody who might look like Steve Zahn if you were to squint and de-age them. So she confronts Solo about not being who he claims, and he completely loses his shit, saying that he's exactly who he claims. And I feel like that moment was meant to be more impactful than it was. Like in the moment, it felt to me like a slightly more escalated version of the dynamic that we've been seeing this whole time. Like she catches him in a lie, he keeps lying. It's just he yelled at this time. And I think they were going for, frightening or something like that. And that might have landed if, like I said this whole time, if I hadn't grown impatient with the lack of forward progress in this plot line, and Juliet's unwillingness to ask any questions or press any points that would move the plot forward. It's just more and more examples, again, of how Solo has a deal. There's something going on with him. Just no forward progress toward uncovering what that deal is. And this episode ends with Juliet passed out as she finds the missing helmet under a bed. And it's just been more and more of the same each week. Like more examples that Solo has a deal with no progress toward uncovering what it is. And our silo moving closer and closer to rebellion while Bernard takes actions to cause one while claiming it's what he wants to prevent. It's all very weird. Also in this episode, Billings finds Patrick Kennedy after his niece tells him where Patrick is hiding. This kind of calls back to my point about how unclear this show has been with the passage of time and what happened to Patrick after the riot. Like he's in this tunnel seemingly dying from the gunshot wound that he got in the riot. And he makes a deal with Billings saying that if Billings gets him a doctor, he'll tell him everything he wants to know and everything he doesn't want to know. And I even had an issue with that. Like, does Patrick know anything the audience doesn't know? Like, are we, the audience, going to learn something from Patrick? Or is Billings going to learn some shit that we already know? Which, again, is giving the illusion of forward plot progress, but it's not. I mean, it is. It's like Billings needs to know stuff, but like it just continues to put us in a place where we're not moving. And the reason I ask, because that scene plays out like we should be anticipating this future conversation between Patrick and Billings. Like we're going to learn some mind-blowing shit. But just the way this show has been dragged out this season, I'm worried that Billings is going to learn some mind-blowing shit from him, and that's cool and that's important. But it's going to be some shit that we already know, so it's not going to be a big deal for us. And here's the thing. Characters learning important information matters. Like, it matters if Patrick tells Billings something that changes the entire way Billings views the silo, Bernard, Sims, whatever. But don't hype it up for me, like just to have that happen like that. Like, they set that shit up like it's going to be a big deal in the next episode. And if Patrick just tells him some shit the audience already knows, it's going to be a big fucking letdown, man. It doesn't need to be. It didn't have to be. When you close an episode with a moment like that, like, I'm going to tell you everything you don't want to fucking know. Like, you're setting an expectation that you need to live up to. Don't have that conversation be him telling Paul some shit I already know. So that's all I got for this one. I know I'm behind. I'm getting caught up. There's going to be a flood of content in very early in January after I get off of work, taking a little break. But let me know what you thought about this episode in the comments, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.